Creating custom GIFs is so easy with my ScanNCutDX. Hey guys, May Flom here, and I am at it with some SVG files. The thing I'm loving, SVG files, you can get them for free. You can purchase them all over the internet. And the great thing about how the DX works, we can just use them like any other cut file. There's nothing special to be done. Now, I'm looking at one particular one here with very sketchy lines. And something I do want to point out is if the designer has created the SVG file to be enormous, you can't shrink it super, super tiny if it also has super tiny lines when it's already enormous. You'll want something with simpler lines. Like you see how this one has very simple lines, and even looking at the spaces, we can see that shrinking down, it won't become so shrunken down and so tiny that it disappears on itself or it just becomes one big cut. So that's just something to be aware of. You can ask as well, if you're purchasing, you can always ask what size this was designed so that you can know if the files you're getting are going to work small or not. Some of them just do not. Most of them do though, because the machine, honestly, between the auto blade and vinyl material, most things can cut, they can cut super, super tiny. But I mean, obviously at a point, if the line is on top of itself, it can't really do anything. So what I'm doing now is just sizing. And then I'm also going to cut 2 of these because I want to have an extra. Why not? And I can reverse, as you can see there. That just makes the puppy's going to face the other way. That's all that means. And then I'll get out my material and cut it. I'm going to be using a heat transfer vinyl so that we can take this design and put it onto a little gift bag for Valentine's Day. And here is my vinyl. Now we're going to put the transfer material side down because we want to cut the back side or the iron-on side or however you want to think of it. But we want to cut the material and leave the rest. So to do that, I've got my little piece here that I've cut, and this particular one, it's silver on the back. And what we're going to do is put this down onto our mat, standard or low tack, either will work. We're also going to make sure that we are half cutting, and what that'll mean is, even though this is super thin, it's going to cut the vinyl. It is not going to cut the transfer material, which is important. It's less important for a project like this particular one, but it's more important when you have more complex SVG files and say words and different pieces, and there's lots of different pieces. It keeps everything where it needs to be. Now we do want to select cut. We also want to go in. You can see I've got my mat and everything is ready. So we're going to cut, and we're also going to make sure to select half cut so that the backing material does not get cut. That's obviously very important, and let the machine do its thing. And then it's time to get creating. So here I have one that I've already weeded, which just means to remove the pieces remove the vinyl that you don't want to cut. A pick tool, especially on this particular vinyl, which is kind of metallic finish, really helps. And you want to move slowly so that you don't tear anything. That's always really important, that you make sure that your creation will last. Now, it is kind of a bummer if we cut all the way through, the little dogs in the middle could be their own cut files, and that's something I'm going to cover in a future video, is doing these SVG files where you don't have cut, where you cut all the way through, and why you would do that. What you see me doing here is just trying to carefully remove the center, because I think I can set it aside, save it, and use it. I think this is doable. You just have to be careful of a couple things. Number 1, don't stretch it. And number 2, pick something that is a single piece. If you try to pick something that has a gajillion pieces, that is going to be incredibly hard to work with. So here you can see that's how it goes. There's my bag. And the blue material that I have there is just to set over the vinyl so that it doesn't burn when I go to iron it. Our next step is indeed to get out I have a felt mat that I use. You could use an ironing board, of course. I use a felt, it's about 1 inch thick felt mat that's my sewing mat here in the craft room. My ironing mat. And then we put our material over the top, and then we press with the iron and repeat until the material has transferred. Now we're just going to do it a couple of times and then check up on it, and just gently pull, checking that everything has fully transferred. If it hasn't, just put that material back down and put the cloth back over it and press once again and as needed. Now here, let me show you what I was talking about, how I think this can be saved. Now, I think it would be very difficult to try to put that design down by itself because I think it would wrinkle up, but we can press it onto the transfer material, and then I have a little bubble there. I'm gonna use this pick tool to lift the little legs up and let them lay down naturally. You just wanna have it lay down naturally. And guess what? Totally works, totally transferred on there, looks great. So I didn't have to actually waste that piece. And if you want to see more about how I do that kind of stuff, let me know. But it's kind of a little insider trick there that sometimes you can save what would be waste. You can not waste it. Now what I'm doing, I've got my needle and thread out, and you can see I tied some fibers to the top of the drawstring. Originally, I was going to put some little things up at the top. However, it's a drawstring, so it's all going to wrinkle up and not look very nice. So instead of that, I'm doing this down here at the bottom. Just going to put a couple buttons, and then I'll flip it inside out to tie off the knot to end. You could put buttons, sequins, you could do embroidery all over this if you really wanted to get fancy. Do whatever, however much you would like or however little. But what I absolutely love about this is you can take a cool design or make your own, add some dimension to it through different buttons and things, but you've got the simplicity of your heat transfer vinyl, which is a favorite material of mine. Get it all in here, and then you've got a giftable, so that instead of your gift wrap being boring, now my little bag is part of the gift, and I love that. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any requests, you know I always love to hear them. I'll see you next time.